Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number.
Call 877-499-MY-TV.
The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money.
Call 877-499-MY-TV.
Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $24.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $24.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card.
Call 877-499-MY-TV. That's 877-499-MY-TV.
Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more.
Call now, 877-499-MY-TV. That's 877-499-MY-TV.
I'm the sports professor Rick Horrow, and welcome to Beyond the Scoreboard, a serious show that doesn't take itself too seriously but probes inside the trillion-dollar business of sports deal-making, law, marketing, endorsements, and the like. It's an entertaining show. We hope you're entertained. Total value of U.S. leagues, now nearly $60 billion, especially if Roger Goodell holds true to his $25 billion prediction by the end of this term of labor peace. Teams, nearly $100 billion. The NFL, $70 billion alone collectively, and baseball at $36 billion. Athletes, according to our Power 100 survey, which will come out again in a month and a half, we'll get it here first, about $3 billion in endorsements and salaries from the top 100. And by the way, Tiger Woods' net worth is $600 million alone. It was about $1 million, too, before the fire hydrant. Media, NBC does an $8 billion Olympic deal through 2032. By the way, that's twice as large as the entire GDP of Switzerland. And the total TV revenue is $51 billion by 2020. Facilities, $24 billion since 1990, $12 billion on corporate sponsorships and events, and $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Sooner or later, you're going to come up with big dollars. Well, the new year is well underway. 2016's global sponsorship spending expecting to grow by nearly 5% to $61 billion. The growth is projected to be driven by corporate sponsorships, international expansion. In the U.S. alone, $16 billion, a 5% increase from last year. The biggest increase, 6% increase in Asia, China, India, South Korea, Japan. And remember, if you checked your stocks recently, the Chinese market ain't doing too well. So sports is helping and will help you understand sports in one of the biggest issues we possibly can with some of the exclusive guests that we have on a regular basis. Show 2, big-time guest, Frank Sapovitz. He was the events guy at the NFL for years, talking about Super Bowl, CEO of Fast Traffic Events and Entertainment, prior working with the NHL as their VP of Events and Entertainment. Brian Burke, special friend, Harvard Law classmate, president of hockey operations of the Flames, before the Canucks, the Maple Leafs, the Whalers. Most important, co-founder of You Can Play, an organization dedicated to the eradication of homophobia in sports, and we'll tell you why in a minute. And then finally, we have Don Garber, the soccer Don, commissioner since 1999. We'll get into that in a minute. Big-time guest, big-time show. Beyond the Scoreboard. Be back in a minute.
I spent months searching the world over for the very best Nashville hot chicken recipe. Then I found it in the last place I ever expected, Nashville. KFC's new Nashville hot chicken. Crispy, hand-prepared chicken with a legendary blend of spicy and smoky flavor. You know, in hindsight, but I probably should have just started in Nashville. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Limited time offer. Pricing and participation may vary. Tax extra.
Sports Byline's library of more than 12,000 interviews is a treasure. I'm Ron Barr, and we want your help in protecting, sharing, and continuing to build this sports interview treasure. We've launched a GoFundMe campaign, so please go to sportsbyline.com/funding and donate so you can be a part of preserving and continuing to build this unique collection of sports interviews. Everyone who donates receives a link to a special commemorative collection of the Sports Byline interview library. Thank you for your support and help.
Are you wasting hundreds of dollars each year on contact lenses? Would you like to be able to see clearly again without reading glasses? Make the smart choice with IQ Laser Vision. Offering locations throughout California, Dr. Robert Lin and his staff at IQ Laser Vision have performed over 40,000 LASIK procedures. LASIK is also as affordable as your daily cup of coffee at less than $2 per day. See for yourself at IQLaserVision.com. That's IQLaserVision.com.
IQ Laser Vision.
I wish I could fall asleep.
Jennifer had a stressful day, and now her mind is spinning at bedtime.
I have a big day tomorrow.
It's time for new Unisom Sleep Minis. The tiny capsules are non-habit forming and work fast. They're the little help busy people need to get a good night's sleep and wake recharged.
Good night.
New Unisom Sleep Minis. A stressful day deserves a restful night. Use as directed. Active ingredient diphenhydramine hydrochloride.
This morning, Sandra Sneed wrote a joyful status. This miss is a soon-to-be Mrs. Over 300 friends liked her engagement post, and it got 76 comments. Sandra, you're one popular gal. Geico also has a comment on your status. Did you know you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance in just 15 minutes by switching to Geico? Just a way we're trying to help cushion a nice little nest egg for the future misses. Hashtag getting hitched. Hashtag savings.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
How long would you wait for your shower to get hot? How long would you wait for your cell phone to fully charge? How long would you wait to get relief from your nasal congestion? If you're congested now and you want powerful relief now, use Afrin No Drip. Afrin starts working in seconds and keeps working for 12 hours. So, why wait? When you can start to get relief in seconds with Afrin. Afrin, powerful congestion relief without the wait. Use as directed. For more information, go to Afrin.com.
Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. I'd like to welcome Frank Sapovitz, CEO of Fast Traffic Events and Entertainment, but prior Senior Vice President of Events for the NFL. Segueing into Super Bowl 50 has a lot to offer. But he was also the Group VP of Events and Entertainment for the NHL after a veteran stand at Radio City Music Hall in the late 70s. City University of New York, Queens College alum, class of 1979. That's old, but he's a friend. And here's Frank. Frank Sapovitz, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. Thank you. How are you?
I am wonderful. Talk about the company first, and then we'll back and fill with NFL and otherwise. Talk about Fast Traffic.
Absolutely. Well, Fast Traffic Events and Entertainment is an event management and consulting company. In many cases, it's not there to produce events, although it does that too. It's there to really advise people how to create better events from the things that they're already doing. Really unsurfacing the potential in the programs that they have in place. And it has been doing that internationally in the U.S., Canada, and Australia.
Give me a few ideas or clients or whatever you can say about the diversity of Frank Sapovitz after he kind of graduated the NHL, then the NFL, but now you're out on your own. Tell us about the out on your own stuff, then we'll back and fill.
I think one of the most rewarding projects that I've worked on in recent year is for the National Rugby League in Sydney, Australia. They have a grand final. It's probably the number 2 sports event in the country, right behind their own State of Origin series, which is a series of call them All-Star games, I guess, that happen throughout their season. The National Rugby League does a grand final in Sydney each year. I went to it a couple of years ago, and one of the things I was asked was to look at it and see what kind of potential it had to generate more revenue, more impact, more media. And frankly, what I found was it needed to do more for its fans. So the NRL, this past October, staged their very first fan festival in Sydney Harbor. It's actually in Darling Harbor, and had 40,000 people attend in its very first incarnation for over the course of 3 days. Tremendous success. The sponsors see it as a great opportunity. They're already coming to the party for the 2016 NRL Grand Final. It's called NRL Nation. That's the name of the fan festival, and I think it's the beginning of something very big out there.
Well, and the commonality of this, Frank Sapovitz, CEO, President, Fast Traffic event company, but with the NFL for a number of years. The commonality here is that mega events are very important beyond just the sporting event itself, which is a kind of unique and neat segue to the Super Bowl. In Super Bowl I, the average NFL, the advertising price was about $40,000 for a 30-second spot. Now we're approaching $5 million. We can take the comparative statistics. It was on 2 networks, and you basically helped take it to where it is today. Do people understand how big an event, and not only that, what kind of a year-long task it is to make sure it's successful on a year-to-year basis in a different venue every year?
Well, and I built it on the shoulders of some great people who were there for 40 years before I was. So I was there for 10, and the Super Bowl did grow and became something even bigger than it was 10 years ago. But the fact is that it's become an American cultural experience far more than the game itself, as you suggest. The fact is that people watch the television program not just for the game. They watch it for the commercials. Everybody knows that. And this year, commercial time is up to about $5 million for a 30-second spot. They also watch it for the halftime show. That's become an even more widely watched show than the game itself in many cases. Before 1992, the halftime show was a time when people changed the channel to something else. Now they're watching the show or actually tuning into the halftime show just to watch that. I heard. The fact is, it's also a great fan event in the city in which it's held. And now there are not only parties for people who are well-connected or people who are willing to spend the money, but NFL Experience has been around since 1992. It's grown to a huge 800,000 square foot interactive football theme park. And over the past few years, that's been amplified and complemented by a local fan event that's free out on the street called Super Bowl Boulevard or Super Bowl Central. Super Bowl Boulevard in New York closed Broadway for a half a mile, and more than 1.5 million people visited that in the course of 4 days.
One is about the scarcity of Super Bowls. Give us your crystal ball prediction now that you're no longer part of the decision-making process on this. What's the rotation look like long-term? The tourist destination infrastructure venues always get their regular rotation slots, I assume. What about the northern undomed Super Bowl process and those communities in the middle? You know, sketch out what you think a 20-year Super Bowl window looks like.
I think that you'll continue to see Super Bowls in favorite locations that fans have come to expect. Clearly, Miami is a perennial favorite. New Orleans is a perennial favorite. You know, those are cities that frankly are an event to go to, and you don't even have to do that much to make it a great experience because those are great places to go. I think you're going to see a Super Bowl get back to Southern California just as soon as you have teams in Southern California. I don't think that's going to take very long at all. And then I think that will go back into what you called the rotation. It's inevitable, and I think it's the right thing. So the warm weather opportunities, create great experiences, but football is a cold weather sport. No question. I think after that, you'll see it continue to go to new stadiums. Minneapolis clearly is going to be hosting a Super Bowl in 2018 because it's a new stadium, just like Indianapolis hosted it in 2012 because it was a new stadium, the Superdome because it was a renovated stadium. Miami is in queue right now because it's both a warm weather and a new stadium or largely renovated stadium by the time they're done with it. Atlanta's in the mix because of their new stadium. So I think it's a great incentive for municipalities and markets to be able to attract Super Bowls and the economics that are behind a Super Bowl. No question in my mind.
Pittsburgh.
Then you asked about the cold weather, and frankly, New York, New Jersey broke that mold.
Yep.
it was a tremendous Super Bowl experience. It was 12 degrees Fahrenheit when we opened Super Bowl Boulevard, but it was 51 degrees when we kicked off the ball. So it's not a great indicator game-wise, but in terms of people being out in the cold, they were out in the cold by the millions. So can or should or will Pittsburgh or Charlotte or Nashville or other outdoor stadiums that would be in the elements that would be cold, colder, or coldest? I think that those opportunities are out there. I think that there's some great intrigue to playing the Super Bowl out in the cold, as long as you have the infrastructure to be able to support a Super Bowl in that city.
There you have it, giving thousands of mayors and other communities leaders hope that it really is possible, including the gutsy move of the week and the most creative move you've ever seen is that the Steeler Brain Trust applies for Super Bowl 57, knowing full well that Heinz Field sponsors 57 flavors of ketchup. So that's about the most bizarre and intriguing matchup ever. Did they get 57? What do you think?
I don't know. San Francisco didn't get 49; they got 50.
Yeah, that's what Frank Sapovitz is on for some historical perspective. Thank you very much, Frank. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
Frank Sapovitz, a lot of experience in the space, and more to come. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard. Be back in a few.
Attention catheter users. Stop reusing dirty catheters. Catheters are now disposable. Recent changes in Medicare now allow patients up to 200 disposable catheters a month, all at little or no cost to you. We bill Medicare. Put an end to the mess and risk of infection by using old catheters. Just use a catheter once and throw it away. Eliminate trips to the pharmacy and insurance paperwork. Shipping is free. Receive a free catheter sample by calling and joining Medical Direct Club right now. Call 1-800-399-9018 to receive your free catheter sample discreetly delivered right to your door. That's 1-800-399-9018. 1-800-399-9018. Call 1-800-399-9018 today. Deductibles and copays apply. Free catheter samples require qualified membership. Sample will arrive with 90-day order.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now, 800-480-5708. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-480-5708. That's 800-480-5708. Again, 800-480-5708.
This family is at home, but they won't be answering the door. They know that the pounding on the door is a process server from the court waiting to hand them foreclosure documents. So instead of enjoying the home they worked so hard to afford, they sit hiding in the dark.
Mom, what was that?
But it doesn't have to be this way. This family can save their home, but they must act fast. Call Allied State Foreclosure Solutions at 800-274-7312. If you're being threatened with foreclosure, have been denied a loan modification, missed a payment on your mortgage, been a victim of a predatory loan, or are upside down on your home, it's critical that you call Allied State Foreclosure Solutions now. 800-274-7312. Allied State Foreclosure Solutions has an attorney in your area that will meet and speak with you. You can stop the foreclosure process, lower your monthly mortgage payments, save your home and your credit, but you must act now. Call 800-274-7312. 800-274-7312. Not available in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson.
I'm the Sports Professor Rick Horrow. Welcome back Beyond the Scoreboard. Special guest Brian Burke, President of Hockey Operations Calgary Flames, after the Canucks, Maple Leafs, Whalers, also Senior VP of Discipline for the NHL. Providence captain of the team as a senior, and Harvard Law alum. With me the same year. He's old. I'm not. He won the Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks as GM in 6 and 7 in the NHL season. One of 10 children, co-founder of You Can Play. He'll tell us about it. Brian Burke.
I'll give you a couple quick stories. If the talk radio shows in Toronto, the Blue Jays had a fantastic year this year. So after the trade deadline, they would talk Blue Jays, and people wanted to talk Blue Jays. They had a great following here. But in the middle of an hour on the Blue Jays, someone would call and say, are we going to talk Leafs anytime soon? They weren't even talking hockey, and they wanted to talk Toronto Maple Leafs. And the second example I'll give you is I was watching a Boston Red Sox team, 8 years ago with Theo Epstein. And Theo at the time was running the Red Sox. And he's a very smart guy, Theo. And he said to me, are you me in Toronto? And I laughed and I said, Theo, I'm 10 of you in Toronto. The GM of Toronto Maple Leafs can't walk down the street without people stopping and asking for autographs or take a picture with them or yelling at him if the team isn't playing well. So the visibility of executives in Canada, I said to him, I'm like you, Peter Chiarelli, who was the GM of the Bruins at the time, Bill Belichick, and Danny Ainge, I think, was running the Celtics. I think that combined is the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I'll tell you what, the interesting part about all of that is that, you've talked the talk and walked the walk for so many years. I would talk about your age, but you are, after I've done this study extensively, 3 months younger than I am, so I better shut up. So the years that, though, have, the difference between you and me, you've done a lot of real stuff. So, you started as an agent over in the dark side, the GM of the Hartford Whalers. You've been with the Canucks. You won a cup with the Ducks. You've been with the Leafs. You've been with the Flames. You've been with the league. I know I missed a lot of that, but the diversity is good for you to stay in the sport but cover all ends of it. How do you build on one experience and get richer and more kind of enlightened and better for the next experience, the evolution of Brian Burke? Tell us about it.
Well, first off, I wish I were more successful at managing up and keeping a job. Part of this job, the guys that have longevity, to have longevity in this business, you not only have to win, you have to manage up. You have to interact between the business people that surround your owner and the owner himself. And I have not done that as well as other people have. I've been fired twice. Both times the team was sold, and the new owners wanted new guys, and that you're stuck with that in our business. I think they're entitled to have whomever they'd like run it. But the key for me has always been to be known as one of the hardest workers and one of the most ethical people in my job. Guys know if I tell them something, it's truth to the extent that I know it's truth. If I promise to do something, I will do it, and people know that. And if you have those attributes, and if you're perceived as intelligent, which I think I am, if you get those three things, if you're bright, you keep your word and have integrity, and you outwork all the people around you, A, you're going to win, and B, you're always going to be able to work. So I embrace the business side of the business. I really like that side. I think that's helped me move around. I embrace the league's direction. Having worked at the league, I think that's helped me move around. But I think the three things are, if I give young people advice like you did at the conference, is you better have the academic resume. You better be able and willing and known for rolling your sleeves up and staying late. And, you better be a person of integrity and a person of your word.
Yeah, but I'll add a fourth one on this one, and this is not gratuitous, although if I sound like it, you have the rare talent that I actually emulate of appearing not to take yourself seriously, but you're one of the most serious and thoughtful and enlightened people around. And I know that sounds like blowing smoke a little bit, but it's the personality as well. And when you combine all of that, it's an unbeatable combination that's successful everywhere. Second thoughts, you don't have to agree with that. I'll do it. But second thoughts, what would you have done differently in any of the places that, you might not have been as successful as you otherwise could have been?
Well, I think the place, you were asked, I think you were there. I got asked the other day, I spoke at a luncheon in Lethbridge, Alberta. And the guy said, you had success everywhere you worked except Toronto. What happened? And I said, well, I think I had success in Toronto. There was a lot of manure in the stable in Toronto. There were a lot of players making big money, with lots of term. And if you're in a hard salary cap and you got players that are making big money with lots of term that aren't productive, you're not going to be able to trade them. So it took a while to shovel out the stable and move some money out there. And I had warned ownership that it would take that long. I just didn't say it publicly. I don't like GMs who stand up the first day and say this is a 5-year rebuild, because basically they're trying to buy 5 years on day one. And I never respected that. I never said it publicly. But I told ownership it would take a while. What would I do differently? Not too much. There's one day in my life I would change, and that's the day my son passed away. And I know we're going to talk about that, but job-wise, not much differently. I tried to manage up where I could. It didn't work. And at some point, you feel like you're kissing somebody's butt if it doesn't work, so do something else.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it, but you did, so we're going to spend a minute on it. Personal, you've been all over the map, but you're incredibly generous and passionate at charitable causes, one specifically, but you've got other ones too. So spend a couple of minutes about the personal side of Brian Burke.
Well, I do a lot of charitable work. The cool thing, and the reason I have chosen to work in Canada most of my adult life, is because of the profile of the sport. It's given me a platform. It's given me a profile to be able to engage in the charitable work I do. So I do environmental things. I'm big on the Canadian Forces Soldiers. I'm big on Special Olympics, big on women's hockey, and big on anti-bullying and homophobia. So my son Brendan was the student manager at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and he came out to us and came out very publicly. It was a wonderful story all across Canada. The general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs has a gay son and embraces that. It didn't make a damn bit of difference to me. But we lost him in a car accident a few months later. And in his memory, Patrick, my son, and I started You Can Play, which is a charity to encourage young male athletes in particular to stay in team sports, because we have a big drop-off for young gay male athletes in team sports. They're not in a comfortable environment. And it's a bigger message to it, the message to the LGBTQ community that, hey, it's, you have value, you're important to us. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful exercise, and it's helped. I saved lives. It's helped a lot of people on the LGBTQ side to feel better about themselves and stay involved in sports. And then it's promoted and encouraged understanding on the part of the straight community.
Using the pulpit of sports to be incredibly passionate about something that's so personally moving, obviously, to be commended about that. Spend a couple of minutes at the end of this talking about what a lot of people want to talk about, which is the business of hockey. You have a magic wand. Gary Bettman gives it to you for a day. Anything that you say, goes, what do you change?
Well, I think if I could change one thing, and this would be evolutionary, not revolutionary, I do think, and I've said this publicly before in the league meetings, I do think at some point I'd like to go to a little bigger ice surface and maybe a couple fewer games. I think we tax our athletes with the schedule we have, and I think the ice surface needs to get bigger. We play on the same ice surface that we played on when we opened our doors 100 years ago. Players have gotten bigger, faster, stronger, so those would be two things. But the game's in great shape. You mentioned Gary Bettman. We're very fortunate to have Gary as our commissioner. We've got labor peace. We've got long-term broadcast deals. We've got some issues, a couple markets we'd like to see doing better than they have, and we've got potential expansion we've got to address. But overall, I think the league's in as good a shape as it's ever been in, and that's because of our leadership element. That's because of Gary Bettman.
Where's hockey 10 years from now, the business of the NHL?
Well, I think it just continues to grow. I think our product is the best live product. I think, and this is, you get into these discussions with other sports. I've got friends and allies that work at Major League Baseball, football, NBA. So this is, we try not to throw rocks at each other. But in terms of the best live product, when you buy a ticket, you come into our building, I think we have the best sporting event in the world. And it's the most difficult sport to play. One thing that I think our fans appreciate is how difficult it is to be an NHL player. And I know someone listening is going to say, the NBA, it's harder to be an NBA player. It's not. Everything an athlete has to do in those sports, they do on feet. They do them in shoes. And everyone knows how to run. Our guys have to do it on skates. And you can win a gold medal in the Olympics in two different disciplines just for skating. So that's one. Second is the object that most, when you play a sport, baseball, you hold the ball in your hand. The object of our game is one level removed. That hockey puck is something you handle with a stick. and it's full contact, and it's overspeed. Our players can skate faster than people can run. So if you add all these elements in and add full contact, there is no more difficult sport to play. And I think the fans appreciate that. They know how hard it is. So it's a great live product. I think it just continues to grow. You got to keep expanding globally. It is a global sport, but not 100%. And like I said, I think the future is very bright for us.
Final comment from a good friend. We had some interesting people in our graduating class area, 80, 81, Harvard Law School, including the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. But, for those of us speaking for the others in the class, we feel really incredibly upset that you're the one probably in our class that got the most limelight from the largest population ever, and frankly, I resent it.
Well, too bad.
Yeah, too bad. There you go, pal. Thank you very much. Brian Burke, Director of Hockey Ops for the Calgary Flames, and one of the biggest thought leaders in hockey. Really appreciate it.
Brian, significant diversity and a lot to tell us. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard.
You know that non-bank private equity business loans are not for every business. However, billions of dollars have already funded across this greatest nation on God's green earth. This is Michael Medved for BusinessLoansNow.com, where they focus mostly on monthly cash flow and not personal credit. If your business could use funding in less than 48 hours, I encourage you to visit BusinessLoansNow.com to find out how much your business could qualify to get.
Helping your business is what we do. BusinessLoansNow.com.
Are you wasting hundreds of dollars each year on contact lenses? Would you like to see clearly again without reading glasses? LASIK treats only the surface of the eye and is healthier and safer than wearing contact lenses long term. Dr. Robert Lin had LASIK himself and still sees 20/20 and has performed over 40,000 LASIK procedures over the last 18 years. Find out more at IQLaserVision.com. That's IQLaserVision.com.
IQ Laser Vision.
I just feel like something's missing.
I know. What we had was so big.
And warm and bright.
And yellow.
Oh, I really miss the sun.
No sun? No problem. Centrum, the most trusted multivitamins, now have more of the vitamin D3 you need. Get the vitamin D you could be missing this winter with Centrum multivitamins. Now our highest level of D3 ever.
There are times being a genius would really come in handy.
This is Houston. Your oxygen levels will be depleted unless you put the valve modulator into the auxiliary gauge after you have calibrated the flexternal matrix, not the external matrix. Do not touch that one.
I'm just the cook. But thankfully, you don't need to be a genius to do your own taxes. Because with TurboTax, you can snap a photo of your W-2 with your smartphone, and it will automatically put your information into all the right forms. Intuit TurboTax. Taxes done smarter.
The new year means incredible new deals at Lumber Liquidators, and that means huge savings on the gorgeous hardwood floor you've always wanted. Choose from more than 400 top-quality floors and the latest styles, like the classic look of oak. This week, get pre-finished oak from just 99 cents. That's 50% off. Or get the hottest looks in whitewashed flooring. Our new Aspen Breeze white oak laminate is now an unbeatable $189. For a limited time, get 20% off beautiful wood look tile packages. Great deals on all engineered hardwood and more from just 59 cents. Plus, get special financing. These deals won't last. Visit LumberLiquidators.com to find a store near you.
At Discover, we believe anniversaries should be a time of celebration, not obligation. That's why we think annual fees are ridiculous. And now, just for giving us a try, we're going to give new card members a one-year anniversary gift they'll never forget. At the end of your first year, we'll take all the cash back you've earned, then match it dollar for dollar. No caps and no catches. Because we know if you try us, you'll like us. And that's worth every penny. Try it and believe it at discover.com/double. Anniversary double cashback offer only for new card members. Limitations apply.
It's Sports Professor Rick Horrow with Beyond the Scoreboard. Welcome back. Don Garber, MLS Commissioner since 1999, the soccer Don, with the NFL for 16 years before the MLS, and ranked by Sports Business Daily as one of the 50 most influential people in the U.S. sports business every year since 2005. Obviously, big deal with international expansion of soccer here and the draft on the way. Don Garber.
What have you done here for the last 16 years? Tried to work hard to build a viable and popular professional Division I soccer league in America. And so far, so good.
So far, so good, and obviously a lot of issues business-wise. One of the big ones is the organizational structure, beginning of the MLS before you got here. Single entity theory. People swear by it. A lot of other leagues don't do it, but you've had it as your staple. How important was that to the success of the MLS?
No single entity, no Major League Soccer, no 20 teams, no 15 stadiums, no birth of a soccer nation in our country. And the idea is really a very simple one, Rick. Our owners are partners around the board table, making decisions collectively to create the league that we have become today, and stark competitors on the field. It's actually a model that many other leagues around the world, and I think even some leagues here, would perhaps like to emulate.
We'll get specific as to different components, but brand-wise, how do you view yourself today? What 30-second elevator speech on the brand of MLS?
You know, a young adult in the world of professional sports here in America. 20 years now, so we've been around for a full generation. The brand is very simple. We are the league for a new America, country that's changing, that's become increasingly global, that has shifting demographics, that has our nation actually looking like and acting like we are a country that's represented by every country from around the world. The League for New America, that's our brand.
And it's a great brand relative to making sure that it stays current. So getting into the whole youth issue, youth soccer, youth development programs, first and foremost, a lot of progress?
There have been a lot of progress. It's a good question, Rick, because when the league was founded, there was this idea that you can build a league around all those tens of millions of kids that play. And that ultimately is not really where our fan base is today. It's all those kids that grew up playing that now are millennials and are consumers, that are influencers, that are driving purchase decisions, that are politicians and CEOs of companies. And they all came out of that movement, and they're now the core of our fan base.
But you've done more than that. So in 06, the under 16, under 18, a lot of structures that were in place that when you go across the pond, you see how dynamic that is, but Americans may not have understood how important that is here. Leap of faith, significant, successful?
Well, you know, I would say we're on the path to success. You know, we spend more money today on youth development through our academy programs than we were spending overall as a league in terms of player salaries probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. But that's a long-term investment. I think the payoff will be in time. Right now, we're feeling pretty good about it. We've got some young kids that are coming up through our academies, playing for our clubs, playing for our national team.
Talk about the stars of the league, salary cap, leveling the playing field. Every league does it. You have to respond in certain ways with all of that. The designated player rule, are you happy with where that is today?
You know, I got to go back to the earlier question, which was the question about the single entity. Yeah. Single entity has owners acting as partners. That doesn't mean that we're there to try to pay players less money. It's actually quite the opposite. They can come together and decide on ways that they can pay players more money. And in this case, the designated player rule is the best example of that. How do you attract star players? We did research that showed that the soccer fan in this country wanted to see the David Beckhams of the world and the Frank Lampards and the Andrea Pirlos and the Sebastian Giovincos. The franchise player, the designated player, the Beckham rule that allows us to sign those players in a way that still fits within our system.
And understanding the global audience of Reuters and the fact that there still is the stigma is the wrong word. There's the perception that there's the Premier League, the Bundesliga, and then there's kind of everybody else. Where do you see the quality of MLS today fitting into kind of the pantheon of world soccer?
You know, I think it's important to recognize where you are and have a realistic view of where you fit in against your competitors, but still aspire to be as good as they are. So our goal is to be one of the top soccer leagues in the world and continue to invest in the quality of play and the in-stadium experience and ensuring that we're doing all those things so that when people think about the Premier League or the Bundesliga, Serie A, at some point soon they think about Major League Soccer. But we recognize we're not there yet. And I think that's a smart approach because if you try to be something you're not too fast, you won't get there. Yet if you don't push yourself to try to get there, then you never will. So I think overall the international football community believes in MLS in many ways as being of higher quality than perhaps some of the soccer folks here in America do. And that's because the reality is it's getting pretty darn good.
And compared to international soccer, that now Americans are seeing for the first time immersively with NBC and others carrying the games at all hours. Does that help you because it exposes soccer to a whole bunch of people that never seen it before, or does it hurt you because it emphasizes the quality difference?
I think our theory has always been to build a soccer nation in the U.S. and Canada. Try to convert people who are perhaps not fans of our game to be fans of the sport professionally. We do a lot of research that looks into what people are looking for with their professional soccer affinity. I think the fact that NBC does a great job with the Premier League early in the morning on Saturday and Sunday is good for us. Yeah. We're trying to create a culture of soccer, professional soccer watchers. And I think if you look at the growth of the market here, it's continued to explode, as has Major League Soccer. So far, the rising tide has lifted all boats. And guess what? We have the most boats on the water.
And as the television boats, have the numbers borne out the synergy between the international soccer here and the growth of eyeballs for the MLS?
It's getting there, Rick. It's not where we want it to be. We've got great deals with ESPN and Fox and Univision. We have ratings growth this year, our audience growth. We just, a few weeks ago, had a great play-in game that was on series that was on Univision. They had record ratings for it. But like everything else, we recognize that it's part of a process. We've got 8-year deals with our 3 broadcast partners here. Similarly, in Canada on TSN and in French language. And overall, they're seeing some good growth.
And how about MLS internationally, too? I know there's a new African deal. There are some other deals that are
there's been a lot of growth for us. A couple of years ago, we had no international television distribution at all. This year, we're on Sky in the UK. We're on Eurosport throughout Europe. We're on Globo in Brazil and many, many places around the world. Our games in England are on at 9 o'clock at night. So you're watching a slate of Premier League games, and then on comes the MLS game of the week. And we've had some great audiences there. But it's the beginning of an international strategy. Television drives that, and then we will fill that in with international exhibition games and merchandising programs, sponsor programs, player promotional programs as well.
Let's talk about corporate sponsors. The kit, the jersey sponsorship deals seem to be coming prolifically. You also have the master sponsorship deals with the MLS as well. How's that doing?
Our commercial business is growing fairly dramatically. We founded a company in 2002 called Soccer United Marketing. That company represents Major League Soccer, but the U.S. Soccer Federation, the Mexican Federation has represented CONCACAF. We've got the only league in the United States now that is Major League that is selling jersey sponsorship on the front. It's a business that's exploded for us. Gives us great exposure because many of them are international companies, also generates a lot of revenue. Our commercial business is growing fairly significantly, and that's a positive.
So Herbalife signs a deal publicly, $5 million a year, or whatever the number is for the Galaxy, and then you realize that your buddy across the city, Adam Silver, is having some issues getting harmony over uniform shirt sponsorship deals, and you say, we have a single entity, so that would be pretty easy for us to do, or something like that.
Well, again, Rick, I don't know that the difference between us doing it and them not has anything to do with the entity. I think it has to do with history, and we're a young league. We're only 20 years old. We can make some decisions that perhaps might be a bit more innovative. They do have jersey sponsorships of the WNBA. I think they tested that to see whether it would work for the NBA. I think the time will come very soon where you'll see logos on almost all major league uniforms. There's no reason not to. You have them everywhere else. Why not put it on the uniform? I don't know that it's happening in the next year or 2 or 5, but I think the time will come when we'll see commercial logos on uniforms in the other major leagues.
And the Coca-Cola, Heineken, Johnson & Johnson, the big-time league sponsorships for you, they get benefits that transcend individual markets. They're national sponsorships and international sponsorships as well.
One of the things that I think is sort of quintessential about the American sports marketing model is this concept of national sponsorship and local sponsorship. And it's one of the things that I think makes the American leagues attractive to the Premier League and the Serie A and clearly the rest of global sport. So we have a very vibrant commercial business nationally. They get certain benefits and values, signboards and intellectual property rights. And then the local clubs get their ability to do local deals. They can sell local sponsorship. They can do local television. And overall, the goal is to grow the enterprise. I mean, we do look at this from an enterprise perspective as opposed to just the league budget or just our individual club budgets.
Expansion in facilities, fun, validating, liberating, economically viable to have more markets that want you than spaces to expand.
You know, it's when I first came into the league in 1999, you know, we had 12 teams, then 10 teams. Some of those teams were owned by the league owners, and there was a time when we couldn't give our teams away to those who ultimately would have to incur the cost of operating them. You know, today there's a very vibrant market. We don't have enough teams to sell. Expansion will go carefully. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit. There is a bit of an internal market where some teams are beginning to get sold, and the asset has appreciated over time. I think that's a positive. Overall, there has been a very, very careful strategic approach to how we've expanded the league. I think it will be the thing that my generation of league executives will be known for. We went from 10 teams to what will soon be 24 in a 15, 16-year period. And 25, 30 years from now, nobody will remember those days.
That when you're called the soccer Don and the Don of soccer, people do it lovingly, and people, I don't think, realize the passion that you bring to this. Right. And history will probably write, in addition to the economic benefits, that you are one of the most passionate commissioners to ever run a league. How does that make you feel?
Well, to be fair, Rick, if you're doing this every day, whether it's here or basketball, baseball, you got to be passionate about it because it's an all-encompassing job. You're managing the public, you're managing your owners, you're managing players in a union, you're trying to grow revenues at the same time, deal with all the pressures of being in the public eye, right? All the things that you write about and talk about and think about. So we all are big believers. I think you got to really believe to work in soccer because it's so hard. You know, we are the newest pro sports league. We are the one that's fighting against a lot of the more traditional views about what professional sport should be. And most of the folks here have been here since the beginning. Yeah. And I think that speaks to the passion that people have. And soccer, by its very nature, is a passionate sport. Kind of gets into your gut. It's why you see people yelling and screaming at referees and painting their faces and waving flags and celebrating and engaging in ways that they can't do perhaps with some of the other sports, and anticipating that goal when it finally happens and the heavens open up and people are hugging and kissing and screaming and crying. That kind of passion flows through to those people who work in it every day, whether it's me or it's the people who work with me or it's people who work at the clubs.
Don Garber, incredibly interesting perspective. Be back with Bust, Boom, and Hope. Rick Horrow, sports professor.
Are you an inventor who would like to try to have an invention or idea patented and submitted to companies, but you don't know what to do next? Call for free information from InventHelp. InventHelp, a leading inventor service company, has been helping inventors since 1984 and has sales offices located in more than 60 cities nationwide. You'll want to talk to the company that has helped secure more than 7,000 invention patents. So call InventHelp. Even if you have an idea for improving an existing product and don't know where to go with it, you'll still want to call InventHelp for free information. You'll find out how InventHelp may assist you in trying to patent your invention and submit it to companies. So call now.
Call InventHelp at 1-800-316-1738. That's 1-800-316-1738. Get your free information by dialing 1-800-316-1738. That's 1-800-316-1738. 1-800-316-1738. Are you a business owner or an individual who owes the IRS? Then be prepared to write down an important phone number. Do you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes? Do you need to file back tax returns? Are you dealing with bank levies and wage garnishments? It's time to deal with your IRS problem today. Call Certified Tax Representation now. Certified Tax Representation, Inc. represents clients just like you in all 50 states. They will contact the IRS on your behalf the same day that you become a client, and you can become a client client immediately. It's time for you to face your IRS problems. Think about how great you're going to feel when you're represented by a company who's an advocate for you, who knows the law, who also will contact the IRS the same day you become a client. Call today for your free, no-obligation consultation. Call now, 1-800-999-1064. That's 1-800-999-1064. Not all cases are typical, and some may not qualify. The consultation is free, and so is the call, so call right now. 1-800-999-1064. That's 1-800-999-1064.
When you struggle with credit card bills every month, you're not just in debt. Debt is all around you.
I see people every day that are on the brink. They're going to go over the edge, and at the bottom is bankruptcy, and we pull them back.
At the Debt Helpline, we're experts at helping you resolve your debt problems and become free of debt. We can help you pay off your debt and give you one lower monthly payment that you can afford.
You do get to consolidate your payments. You only have to worry about making one payment a month instead of making 3 or 4 or 5.
If you have $5,000, $10,000 or more in credit card bills, call the Debt Helpline now for a free confidential debt analysis.
800-957-6063. 800-957-6063. Call the CESI Debt Helpline right now for a free confidential debt review. 800-957-6063. 800-957-6063.
Hopefully you like the show today. Tweet at Rick Horrow and tell us what you want to change. And if you like it, tweet a lot. If you don't, tweet a little. Bust, Boom, and Hope, our weekly feature on the bad, the good, and the hopeful. Australian Open, a week old. Tennis rocked by that widespread allegation of match fixing. Sydney Morning Herald and BBC reveals details of the joint investigation into match fixing at major tournaments, including Wimbledon, but everywhere. The match fixing allegedly orchestrated by gambling syndicates in Russia and Italy, targeting prominent players at major tournaments, offered $50,000 for each fix. It warned about a core group of 16 players, authorities did, all ranked in the top 50, which is interesting, and half of those players play in the Australian Open. More than 70, including Grand Slam winners, appear on 9 leaked lists, like the old Mitchell report. Let's find out who they are and let's clean it up. Boom. Well, buzzer beaters not seen in baseball, but the MLB hit one this past week by reaching a settlement with plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit regarding the league's long-standing TV market territories. The U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Details not disclosed. High-ranking league and team officials talk about the territorial issues. MLB dominated by regional sports networks, lucrative million or billion-dollar contracts. Recent moves by MLB to begin in-market streaming has disrupted or affected, so a settlement before the deadline will have significant impact on all of this, and that's boom. How about hope? Globecast, the global solutions provider recently chosen by Russian broadcaster Channel One to help them integrate and reach the European Asian markets. With the move, Broadcast Network hopes to dramatically extend its reach to new audiences around the two continents. It's set to provide Hotbird in Europe illumination, and the bottom line is Globecast Moscova says that they're delighted in helping Channel One. The partnership, a good illustration of how Globecast can ensure customers meeting both their current and future business objectives in a cost-effective way with no disruption to their service. That's the bottom line from Globecast Moscova. The bottom line to take away from this is we all have political issues, but maybe commercial sports issues transcend. Thanks to Frank Sapovitz, thanks to Brian Burke, thanks to Don Garber, and most important, thanks to you for listening. And once again, next week, as we get closer to Super Bowl, join us when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.
If you missed something from today's show, you can find it now on iHeartRadio Talk. That's iHeartRadio.com/talk. A special news and update station you control. Follow us on iHeartRadio Talk and stay in touch 24/7.